newspaper now addresses President Buhari as Major General, says he's a dictator. A Nigerian national daily, Punch, has shared a notice which gave off his stand on the alleged lawlessness witnessed in President Buhari's administration. In a notice titled Buhari's Lawlessness, Our Stand, Punch stated that it will henceforth preface Buhari's name with his rank as a military dictator in the 80s, Major General, and refer to his administration as a regime until they purge themselves of their insufferable contempt for the rule of law. The National Daily reiterated that it will not adopt the self-defeating attitude of many Nigerians, looking the other way after each violation of rights and attacks on the citizens, the courts, the press and civic society, including self-determination groups lawfully exercising their inalienable right to peaceful dissent. It alleged that this administration's action and assault on courts, disobedience of court orders, and arbitrary detention of citizens reflects its true character of the martial culture. The SSS and police were called out by Punch, who also accused the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, of vigorously pressing for anti-hate speech laws to restrict social media even after being harassed by the SSS and accused of loitering in 2015. The notice reads in full, and I quote, as a symbolic demonstration of our protest against autocracy and military-style repression, Punch, all our print newspapers, The Punch, Saturday Punch, Sunday Punch, Punch Sports Extra, and digital platforms, most especially Punch.com, we henceforth preface Buhari's name with his rank as a military dictator in the 80s, Major General, and refer to his administration as a regime until they purge themselves of their insufferable contempt for the rule of law. The entire country and global audience are rightly scandalized by the unfolding saga over Omoyele Sowore and the unruliness of the SSS and the government, but it is only a pattern, a reflection of the serious disregard of the Buhari regime for human rights and its battering of other arms of government and our democratic institutions. Punch views this tendency and its recent escalation with serious concern, knowing as the great thinker Edmund Burke said that the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Nigeria had trod a path, a veritable obstacle course, where repression, especially under military jackboots, was a malignant presence, and this attracted heroic resistance by ordinary people, civic society groups, and the press. But Nigerians have lately become lethargic, divided by ethnic and sectarian sentiments, and weakened by widespread poverty brought on by a rapacious political class and bad governance. Punch will not adopt the self-defeating attitude of many Nigerians looking the other way after each violation of rights and attacks on the citizens, the courts, the press and civic society, including self-determination groups lawfully exercising their inalienable right to peaceful dissent. This regime's actions and assaults on the court, disobedience of court orders and arbitrary detention of citizens reflect its true character of the martial culture. Major General Muhammadu Buhari, retired, ran a arm-fisted military junta in 1984 and 85, and old habits obviously run deep. Until he and his repressive regime purge themselves of their martial tendency, therefore, Punch will not be a part of a falsely adorning it with a democratic robe. Hence, our decision to label it for what it is, an autocratic military-style regime run by Major General Muhammad Buhari, retired. Showore's travail are symptomatic, having ignored court orders granting him bail. The SSS, after much pressure following 125 days in captivity, released him only to stage a Gestapo-style raid on the court where the journalist was standing trial. The leader of the Islamic movement in Nigeria, Ibrahim Ezazaki, and his wife have spent over 3 years in detention in violation of court orders granting them bail and ordering their release. A former national security advisor, Sambo Dasuki, has been held in detention since 2015 in defiance of several court orders, including one by the ECOWAS Appellate Court that declared his continued incarceration illegal. Under Buhari, the SSS has become a monstrous and repressive secret police, acting often with impunity. Buhari bears responsibility for the state of repression because as president, he can stop it today. But the SSS is not alone. The Nigeria police was notoriety predates Buhari's second coming, has continued his serial abuse of human rights and is ever available to officials who routinely deploy police officers from the mundane abuse of sirens in traffic to arbitrary arrest and torture of victims. The police and military fail to understand that peaceful agitation and the right to associate are fundamental rights. This situation is early familiar. As military head of state, Buhari's appointee, who headed the National Security Organization, as the SSS was then known, Lawal Rafidadi, unleashed a reign of terror on Nigerians, featuring arbitrary arrest and torture in cells described by inmates as chambers of horror. Under the infamous Decree 2, agents had pre-signed detention papers, court orders were ignored, and hostile clauses were inserted in decrees. While the press was specifically targeted with the infamous Decree 4, under which Tunde Thompson and Nduka Irabo were jailed. Returning as an elected president, Buhari has followed the same template, appointing Lawal Daura as Director General of the SSS, who reenacted the Rafidadi playbook by his treatment of Dasuki and Ezazaki. Among others, raided the homes of judges and twice deployed armed SSS heavies to foil the arrest of two former security chiefs by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Nigerian Navy authorities similarly ignored court orders to release Navy Captain Dada Labijo, who they detained for over a year until his recent release on bail. Nigeria Army too detains suspects interminably on the grounds of being terrorism suspects. Some governors have borrowed from his nefarious model, deploying security agents and perverting the law to punish critics and journalists. Critics Dadiyata Idris and Stephen Kefas have been arrested and arraigned. Agba Jalingo is facing a treason charge for offending the Cross River State government. Jones Abiri, a local publisher in Bayelsa State, has been charged with terrorism, while in Delta State, two journalists are facing criminal defamation charges. The regime's information and culture minister, Lai Mohammed, forgetting how as opposition spokesman in 2014, he was harassed by the SSS and accused of loitering, has been vigorously pressing for anti-hate speech laws to restrict the social media. Abdullahi Sabi, a senator, along with others, has represented a hate speech bill. Their sole purpose is to insulate officials from criticism and compel unquestioned acceptance of Buhari's draconian misrule. Under the law, suspects cannot be held beyond 48 hours except by a court order, but the regime observes this in the breach, yet Nigeria is a signatory to the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, African Charter on Human and People's Rights, and the Convention Against Torture and other cruel, inhuman or degrading treatments and other treaties guaranteeing fundamental rights. The 1999 Constitution also spells out basic rights, but the regime chooses which rights or court orders to respect or obey. This is unacceptable. Critical segments of the society have been assaulted, silenced, or compromised. It is time, as a Nobel laureate, Wole Soyinka has strongly advocated for civil society to rejuvenate itself and send a message to Buhari to rein in his wild dogs of disobedience. From the United States has come a message from the Department of State two senators and Congress, telling the Buhari regime to stop its shocking affront to the rule of law, reminding the general that respect the rule of law, judicial independence, political and media freedom, and due process are key tenets of democracy. Nigeria has made more than its fair share of draconian rules, whether in military or civil gap, but none has succeeded in breaking our resilience and irrepressible spirit. This regime will not prove to be an exception. Nigeria and Nigerians we overcome the strong desire of our people to enjoy the unfettered freedoms guaranteed by the Constitution and the rule of law, including the freedom to speak freely and assemble peacefully. We again at last and crush the spirit of despotism. Buhari can still redeem himself and his out of control security agents and reclaim his past facade of tolerance. When Daura brazenly inserted himself in politics by recklessly sending masked SSS enforcers to besiege the National Assembly, as acting president, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo promptly sacked him and had him arrested. Buhari should similarly distance himself and his regime from the lawlessness and impunity of the current SSS DG, Yusuf Bichi, by dismissing him, ordering the release of all victims of illegal detention, and compelling obedience to court orders. The SSS has not been efficient in the war against terror. It should perform its primary duty to safeguard the country. As a product of statute, its loyalty should be the country, not temporary occupiers of public office. The regime repression cannot succeed but will further polarize the society and weaken national cohesion. The Nigerian Bar Association has vowed to defend the sanctity of judicial authority, while Soyinka has warned that disregard for court orders could beget desperation and civil disobedience. Nigerians need to stop their supine acquiescence to oppression and learn to stand up for their rights, as many are doing around the world, using all peaceful and legal means, including the right to protest and of peaceful assembly. It is Dasuki, Ezazaki, Showore and others today. Who knows who is next if repression is not restricted? So guys, you've heard it all. This is from Punch newspaper, and my happiness is that they are beginning to wake up to their responsibility, because this is what they are supposed to do. They are supposed to be the intermediary between the masses and the government, because they are the ones who are always going out to go and see and investigate what actually happened, and that is the area they really want to crush. And a lot of them have been keeping quiet, and people have been accusing all these media houses that majority of them are into all these brown envelopes. You know what we are talking about. Once they receive that brown envelope, a lot of them will try to come and project the government in the light which the government wants, not what the masses are seeing. Because one thing is for you to be telling somebody, okay, this is this person, but the way people are seeing that particular person might be different. So it now makes you look somehow, because people will now know that you are not saying the truth. So it is this media people that will be able to go further, not being intimidated, because the way they are going, they really want to intimidate these media houses so that they will not be able to project or say things the way they are, because they are the ones who always come out to tell us a lot of things happening, even deeper secrets in government. And that is what this government is all about doing. So we are so happy that Punch, because it's a reputable media house, coming out, taking a position, not minding what could happen. Because now, if we say we are not under military rule, then why should we be experiencing what we experienced in military rule, and now we talk about democracy? So it's not going to be a good thing. So it is better for other media houses to come out too, even as a new Punch newspaper is coming out to do. It is a good thing that they are coming out, just like I said. And more so, again, the problem again is from the masses, because the masses, majority of them don't even know what is happening. The few ones that know what is going on, they try to be sentimental, to be loyal to whosoever they really believe in, whether the person is doing it right or not. If we don't come out, just like we are saying, if we don't come out, you know much might not be achieved. Because if we come out in our numbers peacefully, but because this one say, oh, what is my business? What is my business? Please, it's none of my business, and all of that. And that's why these people are getting away with all of these things. But it's a good thing that Punch newspaper is taking a stand, because that is just the way it is. Call the thing the way it is, not trying to be diplomatic, not trying to be politically correct. If we continue that line, these guys will take us for a ride. So guys, I would like to hear from you what you think, about this article that Punch newspaper has written, and they explained everything which we are all aware of. So guys, leave your comments. Thank you very much. Bye.